Hi there, and welcome to the second season of the Humans in AI podcast. In this podcast, we dive into the real-life stories of the top leaders and entrepreneurs within the artificial intelligence, high-performance computing and data center space. These people truly are at the top of their game. We have honest and authentic conversations with all our guests. We'll chat about their career journeys, the highs and the lows, and the lessons they learned from the mistakes they've made, and the victories they've celebrated along the way. It's all about sharing their experiences and knowledge. We talk about the company they're currently in and how they see the future of the space. So if you're looking for practical advice from people who've walked the same path, or just a little inspiration, you're in the right place. We're going to be releasing new episodes every Thursday, so make sure you stay tuned. Hey Ben, how you doing?
I'm doing well.
Very good, thanks. Very good indeed. Looking forward to Christmas now, so we're on the run up, so that's great. But look, thanks for having you on. Obviously, we've been talking about this for a little while now. For the benefit of the people that don't know you, do you mind just giving us a quick intro, who you are, current role, where you're working, just sort of a helicopter view, if that's all right?
Yeah, of course, and thank you for having me. My name is Ben Elder. For those that don't know me, I'm the Regional VP for EMEA at Simpplr. For those that don't know Simpplr, we're a Gartner Magic Quadrant leader in intranet package solutions, which basically means we offer a software as a service communication management platform, formerly known as an intranet, but I think it's a little bit more than that these days. I've been in the software industry for about 18 years and delighted to be here to talk to you today.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for giving us a bit of an overview there. So let's take it right back to the beginning. We'll focus a little bit more on Simpplr and obviously the challenges that lay ahead for you in the current role later on. But let's just get to know you a little bit more, if that's okay. So obviously you started out in IT sales. What was the reason for that? I mean, it's not everybody's sort of ideal dream job, is it? So what made you get into sales in the first instance?
No, it's not. You know, one of my favorite interview questions to ask people is like, why did you get into IT? Because everyone has a different story. And not too long ago, I came across someone that when they were a kid dreamed of being an IT salesperson because their parents were in tech sales. I was different. I wanted to be, when I was a kid, an astronaut, film director. And then by the time I was going off to university, I settled on, I wanted to be a police officer. So I undertook a degree in criminology, and about 3 months after getting to university, I interviewed a police officer who had just retired after 30 or 40 years in the force. And he was the single most depressing person I've ever met in my life. And I realized that I don't want to be you. And I then went through a process of kind of deciding what I wanted to do with my life. And I realized that I liked people and I liked financial reward. But after briefly considering a career as a Magic Mike, I decided that actually probably tech sales was the way thing for me. I had a
Probably a good idea.
time job selling laptops in a PC world, and I went full time. I went for the manager program, and I've just been really, really lucky since then. Every time a door's closed, another one's opened, and I've just kind of ridden my luck, and I've been really, really fortunate with the career that I've had.
Fantastic. So you first job was Ingram Micro, was that?
That was the second one. I started with PC World, we're known as Currys. I was a sales assistant there, got onto the management program, and I joined Ingram Micro in 2013 as a business manager, looking after Microsoft and Symantec and Adobe and a bunch of the very well-known software vendors.
Fantastic. And so, and that was what, as an individual contributor, looking after those relationships, was it?
Yeah, first couple of years at Ingram, I was an IC managing some of the biggest software vendors that they had. It was a mix of kind of sales and account management. And early in my career, just before that, when I was at PC World, I was a sales exec for a number of years as well. So yeah, I've had the experience of both being an IC and being a manager, which I think gives me a unique perspective now managing an AE team myself.
So what was it that made you move into management then? I mean, do you need to be an incredible IC to become a good manager, or is that, because that's sometimes a bit of a myth and also doesn't necessarily work as well.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, some people go for management positions because they think it's mutual next step for them. Obviously, like depending on the company that you work with, managers aren't necessarily always, remunerated as well as salespeople. Like world-class enterprise account executives often earn more than sales managers. So I think if you really, want to go for it, you've got to really have a desire to want to help and coach people, and that was the thing for me. I felt I got to a pretty good standard as an account exec myself. as an individual contributor. And I was very interested in coaching and passing on what I'd learned. And there's this cheesy old film in the 90s that starred Haley Joel Osment called Pay It Forward. I really loved that film, and it was just the idea of passing on something. Someone does you a favor, you do them a favor, and that's kind of my approach to management, is try to help people kick on with their careers.
Fantastic. So you moved into management then when you were Ingram.
I did.
And so what was that? Managing team of partnership managers, AEs? How did it work?
Salespeople. So yeah, it's quite a large team when I was at Ingram. So initially I took over the inside sales team that focused on software. And that was around about the time that software as a service was becoming a little bit more. I was starting to take over the on-prem business. And when I started there, we still used to sell boxed software with a CD inside, and that was the delivery method. So cloud was still a relatively new concept. AWS hadn't, really taken off commercially yet. So initially it was the old software licensing team. And then that team grew. We invested in Ingram at the time in cloud capabilities, both infrastructure as a service, software as a service. And by the time I left Ingram, I was managing a team of 4 business development managers, so external field sales folks. I had an inside sales team. I had a manager managing those team, and I had someone that was managing operations as well. So I think it was about a team of 25 or 30 when I left Ingram.
That's a huge team, yeah. And obviously, so having inside sales and field sales, so different roles. Does it require a different type of sort of management, or would you say the principles are essentially the same?
I think one of the things that I've learned that's most effective about managing people is if you show genuine compassion and empathy for people, and you show care. I always start every one-to-one with a simple, like, how are you? How was your weekend? Like, tell me about your life. What's going on? Like, I invest in people. I think those principles of, building a strong relationship with people, regardless of whatever role they have, that I think is universal when it comes to people leadership and people management. But obviously an inside sales role versus a field sales role, they are fundamentally different roles needing different skill sets. In field sales, you need to be a strong storyteller. You've got to have good executive presence. You've got to be able to, walk into a room with a, CEO of a business at a short notice and equally be able to go and peer to, junior sales executives on the floor. When you're an inside sales rep, you don't have that pressure. You don't have to be physically in front of someone, but you've got to be quick. You've got to have good administrative skills. And I think you've also got to have a pretty good understanding of, licensing models and things like that. So I think the skill sets are different. Both roles are equally as important. Even in this hybrid role, I think people still crave FaceTime, and I think there's still very much a, role and responsibility for people that can go and succeed in the field.
Indeed, and I think it's quite interesting because the inside sales side of things and the field, like you say, field sales is 2 different types of roles. Not everyone starts at the I'd almost class inside sales as starting at the very early career journey of sales, and some people just jump straight into field sales and almost. I don't want to necessarily say have it an easier landing into sales, but it's certainly, I'd say, sometimes smoother. And I think, I've got a daughter now that, I keep talking to her about getting into IT sales. I think you'd be amazing. And the inside sales role, I think, is quite similar to that of recruitment. It's phone based. It's quite activity sort of heavy. It's, highs and lows, for sure. It's very character building.
It is. And I feel for the, this is going to make me sound really, really old, but I'm not, but I feel for the...
Yeah, no, you're younger than me, so don't do that.
I'm hitting the big 4 next year. I feel for the young people today, like, especially those during the pandemic that went to university remotely, because you miss out on those basic social skills. Like, we talk about elevator pitches in sales, like imagine you bump into the CEO of your most important target prospect in an elevator, and you literally have a minute to pitch your product and introduce yourselves. I think if you've been raised in that hybrid world and you've not had the ability to be in front of people and be in an office and develop conversational skills, that's just going to be so difficult to do. I remember when I started my career, I couldn't put a conversation together with someone in business. It's something that you learn over time and being around with people, but fundamentally those skills are just so important, and they become important in your personal life as you get older as well.
No, I agree. And do you think people that come from an inside sales route as they progress their career, do you think they often end up maybe being better salespeople than those that have come in a different route, or would you say, it doesn't really have much of a bearing?
I think they can be for a couple of reasons. One, I was watching a podcast that an old friend of mine from Meta was doing a while ago, and he said that he does not agree with like the hybrid or work from home model. Like he wants his team manages a team of BDRs and sales reps. The coaching that you get and the knowledge that you can pick up being sat next to someone who's vastly more experienced than you, that is gold dust, for someone starting their career. Also, I think, when you're dealing with an inside sales role and you've got a lot of traffic coming in and you're having to, craft quality emails, it teaches you the foundations of sales. And that discipline, that structure is going to stay with you for the rest of your career. So I think if you manage to start your career and go straight into a field sales role, then you don't have those fundamentals. I think a big part of your skill set could be missing. So I'm a big supporter of, kind of hybrid flexible work. But I think those that are just starting their career, like one advice I would pass on is get some time in the office with people that have got more experience than you, because the things that you will pick up are just absolute gold dust.
I couldn't agree with you more. I see people working remotely now and they don't know enough. And like you say, it's retaining, it's listening, it's being a sponge. And you can't do that, with maybe an hour of training on Teams or Zoom, whatever, with your manager. There's only so much information you actually learn. So it is vital particularly for those that are really motivated to succeed in sales. You're right. Get in the office, be around people. Even when you don't need to be in the office, just be there, because you're just going to learn. So it makes a huge difference. So obviously you did the Ingram role, and then you moved on. Obviously it's all about progressing at the end of the day. So what happened next?
Yeah, so I love my time at Ingram. Like Ingram, I've been so lucky. I've worked for a number of different companies now. All of them have been great gigs for a number of different reasons. I had a huge amount of friends at Ingram. I developed so much there. Worked with some great leaders. Matt Sanderson, who runs the UK Ingram business, is phenomenal and a great role model. And I had a great boss down as well. But the thing that made me move on is I wanted to get back into end customer sales. So obviously at Ingram they sell through resellers, and that gave me a fantastic understanding of the OT channel. But I really, really wanted to get back to end user sales. And actually, I targeted Rackspace. Like, company has a sterling reputation, and especially at the time, it had a great reputation for the sales team. And I thought that was a place that I would be able to learn. So I applied for Rackspace, and almost instantly my application was rejected because I lived quite far away. The office was down near Heathrow Airport at the time, and I was living in Milton Keynes. So I think they looked at the kind of geography and they wanted someone to be in the office 5 days a week. But eventually, an internal recruiter picked up my CV and looked at it and thought, actually, pretty good. Like, if you're willing to commit to the journey, then we'll take a punt on you. And had a couple of interviews there. And I joined Rackspace as an SMB sales manager, and it was one of the most valuable 18 months of my career. I learned an enormous amount there. And the culture there was exactly what we were talking about, like in the office, being able to sit around people, learn from people. And I think the thing that I particularly enjoyed about that was I was managing people that were at various early stages of their career. There was a lot that I could kind of pass on and coach, but also like learn a lot from them as well, and learn a lot from some of the more experienced managers there, like Lucy Springle-Hurst, and I look back at was leading the sales team there at the time. He's obviously doing quite well and quite senior at Microsoft now. So there was a lot of great role models for me to learn from, and a really wonderful team, and a lot of them I'm still friends with and have gone on to great things themselves now.
The standard was really high, isn't it? So just even getting a job, in Rackspace in those days, was a huge achievement. I mean, I used to recruit for them, and I had hair beforehand, and so the bar was high. The interview process was a challenging one. I mean, you really came away feeling like you earned it once you got that job, and you also tended to walk in on your first day and you already knew quite a few people because you met quite a few through that process, and that sort of stringent vetting was obviously always something that they really sort of were proud of. So obviously you took the job. You were looking after SMB.
Yeah, I had a book of business at SMB accounts. I think it was like up to 500 million. I managed 10 business development consultants or AEs. So that was probably like the biggest inside sales team I managed, and that was a challenge. Like 10 people is a lot. I mean, I was a big follower at that time because you tended to have, natural wastage. There was a fantastic guy in my team, Tom, who ended up moving on to Google. That's one that, when someone says, like, he's done so well to Google, really sad to lose him, but what can you do when something like that happens? So you're almost perpetually recruiting. But it was a big team, but had some fantastic experiences there. And, you kind of mentioned around that, difficulty of getting in. They were really, really good with me through the interview process because I went and did my presentation on site and they walked me around the office. And before I started, I got to go to the sales kickoff, which was great to experience the culture. And they had the big atrium at the time. There was some, real world-class salespeople working there at the time.
Oh, it's fantastic. I mean, I remember going around it. You had the Mini, the phone box, and I don't know whether you had the straitjacket sort of thing going on when you were there at all. I think that's changed a little bit, but obviously, yeah, the whole Wacker mentality. It was almost like a tribe. They really did create that sort of team culture.
Yeah, there was also like, I mean, the word banter in sales, though, you've got to be careful with it because, you can always take it too far. But the banter there was really healthy. And some of the I have so many happy memories of the team and the jokes there. I remember like they also used to take things like Halloween really seriously, which I've never seen at a company. I remember someone dressing up like as a dead ringer for the clown in the It film. And he was just walking around and during one of like the huddles in the morning, he went and got underneath the pod where my team was sitting, and he stayed there and really committed to this prank for about 15 minutes. And then he started stroking the leg of one of my sales guys, and then he obviously looked under and saw this guy there with the yellow eyes and everything, his absolute skin. And everyone appreciated that, and that just kind of added to the culture. But at the same time, like I don't want to paint too much of a picture that it was all fun. It was really, really hard work. Like there was culture of success there. You had to hit your numbers. It was very much about getting onto President's Club and doing well there. So it was a real good mix of like in-office culture, learning, like being able to be coached by some very experienced mentors, both as a manager and as a salesperson. And then there was a lot of fun as well.
Yeah, I mean, things like President's Clubs, those incentives, you've got to have that. If you're going to create a successful, growing business, with people doing well, you've got to have something, to aim for. I mean, the whole carrot and stick thing, is tried and tested. It has to be. I also remember around, maybe, hopefully I'm not making this up in my head, but I remember going around there and they had flags across all the desks.
Yeah.
I think for all the different nationalities of the people that work there. And I just remember thinking this is probably one of the most inclusive environments where people from everywhere are literally in this one office. And I thought that was quite unique because I hadn't seen that anywhere else before.
Yeah, and you could choose your flag as well. I remember my flag was a Man United flag. Still got it somewhere. Because I didn't really, I don't know why, I didn't want to put up a British flag or an English flag because my ancestry is British, Scottish, and Welsh. But football culture was a big part of it there. So there was a lot of banter, a lot of Arsenal fans, a lot of Spurs fans. Not too many Man United fans, I don't think. There wasn't too many City fans at the time because they hadn't, bought as many league titles as they have now. So, but I had a Man United flag up, and people had all kinds of things that just represented their culture or their heritage, and it just would hang above your desk. There was loads of magnets on the ceiling, and I think there was you could walk in and it might seem a bit messy, like there was boxes all over the place in the office. But I think the thing that did strike me about the office is it was a place where clearly, like, it was designed to create that culture and comfort because they wanted you to work hard and you had to work hard.
And also, culture and that environment to work hard is really key.
Yeah.
You as the manager and the leader managing a team of business development consultants, inside sales type reps, what did you do to put in place to make sure your team performed? Because obviously that is a big accolade, a big achievement that you've lost somebody to go to Google. Like, as much as it's disappointing, it shows you're doing something right. But what did you do to actually make sure that those individuals really thrived?
So I actually inherited an underperforming team. So on one hand, it was kind of like easy for me to kind of show the way forward because we couldn't really be doing a lot worse than we were doing when I got there. But then on the other hand, like creating a vision for people and consistency. So I think like communication is so important when you're leading a sales team. Like you've got to be able to articulate in clear terms how the team are doing, and if you're not performing. This is one of the things that I learned from Olaf Ackerman, one of the best lessons of my career. And he didn't kind of give me this advice like directly. It was just clear from the forecasting meetings, but just like always have a plan. Like if you're not performing, like have a plan. Like what are you going to do about it? And the fundamental challenge at the end of the time is pipeline. And there's ways you can fix pipeline, like activity drives results, cold calling, get on the phone, look at your accounts, review opportunities, look at, look at the account plans from a high tactical or where opportunities. We had so many services we could sell as well. Like how indexed are we? How many accounts are buying one service versus all the other things that we sell? So there was a lot that we could do. But the fundamental thing with the team is when they're performing, if a team is underperforming too long, it can start to affect the culture and the attitude. So you've got to figure out very quickly like who's on board, who's on the bus, who's going to go with you, and who's not. And those are the things ultimately that managers earn their salaries for. Is that sometimes you've got to make some tough decisions. But you give the team a name, have a bit of fun. One of the things that I always did was make sure that it was clear from my leadership style that I would never ask the team to do anything that I wasn't capable of or willing to do myself. So I was always the first one in the office every day. I lived the furthest away, but I got up at 5 a.m. every day for a year and a half, and I was the first in the office, and I was the last one to leave. I would pick up the phone and do cold calls if I needed to. I was always there with them. I'd go to meetings with them. I would try to be a role model and project the AE that I wanted them to be. And then have fun joining. So they at the time I had a kind of shaved head. I don't know why I did that. But I went in one day wearing a white shirt and green trousers, and someone said I looked like Peter Griffin from Family Guy. I went to react to it. You can either be stony faced and put that person on a pip out of revenge, or you can laugh and take it on the chin and show them that you're willing to engage in that as long as they work hard, and that's what I did.
I think it's important to be able to have that level of banter and be clear that there is a manager employee type relationship, but also the fact that you're in the trenches with them. So so I took from that obviously that the underpinning culture of the organization and that high performance culture, but also like I say, having a plan to actually get to somewhere, and then leading from the front were the key sort of things that you did really to ensure that those team were excelling, those team members.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. So obviously you then moved on again. So as you do, so I think you did a short stint at Symantec, didn't you? Before you then moved on to a very exciting organisation as well.
Yeah, that was 2019 was a wild year. Like I thought I was at Rackspace for 3 or 4 years. Early in my career, like I was at Curry's Dixon's for 7 years almost. I was at England 5. I didn't really like to move on too often. I was at Rackspace for 18 months. They'd taken the team from a very low base. We finally hit target towards the end of the year. And then a guy that was my manager when I was at Simpplr kind of came along and had gone to Symantec and talked about a role there. And it just felt really, really exciting to me. And it felt like, almost the Charlie in the Chocolate Factory, like I've got a golden ticket. I went and actually, on one, I kind of reflect on my kind of six Symantec in two ways. On one hand, it was a hugely valuable learning experience. And on the other hand, really disappointed because I walked away from Rackspace where I was learning from incredible people like Olaf and Lucy Swinglehurst. But I went to Symantec, and then they got acquired by Broadcom, and they trimmed the team down. And it was pretty clear that the career I was hoping to have at Symantec was not going to be the right one. And a friend of mine that I went to university with was just about to go on maternity leave, and she'd been at Facebook for a little while. And Facebook was the company that I went to, obviously very exciting, and then it's Meta now. And they were just starting a B2B software business. They had effectively taken the Facebook product and copied the code and created a product called Workplace. And they were building this as the first B2B arm of Meta. And my friend was going on maternity leave, and she knew what was happening to me. And she just called me one day and said, "Hey, your life's just been ruined. Do you want to just sit on the couch and cry about yourself, or do you want to come and spend a year at Facebook and cover me?" And I thought, you know what? It's a risk, obviously, going there on a contract, but I'll always have Facebook on my career. No one will ever take that away from me. And it'll be a year where I can go there, work hard, and reset and figure out what I want to do next and maybe make a few more connections. I ended up staying at Meta for 4 years. They made me permanent about 3 months after I joined the company. And it was one of the best gigs. Like, I had a fantastic time at Ingram, I had a fantastic time at Rackspace, and I had a fantastic time at Mentor. I met some amazing people, met some amazing friends, and got to be part of building B2B there twice, both in the workplace team and in the out labs.
So you did a couple of different roles there, didn't you? I think. So do you want to just sort of talk through, those sort of roles and the differences?
Yep. So half the time I was there, I was part of the workplace team, so the B2B software. Initially, I was covering my friend who was the sales manager for the mid-market team. So managing 4 AEs that Meta they called them client partners at the time. And that was kind of the kind of smaller, faster business. And then when she came back, I applied for the enterprise role, so doing the same thing, managing a slightly larger team. It was 6 AEs, and focused on the enterprise space. And that was my first time managing an enterprise sales team. Did that for about a year and a half. And then some of the changes started at Meta. So they went through a reorg and they decided that they'd taken the workplace business about as far as they could. I wanted to take those learnings and lay the groundwork for building B2B with VR. So I got moved into the Reality Labs team, and my role has changed slightly. I ended up for the last half of my time at Meta managing the SI alliances. So I managed the relationships with Accenture and PwC and Deloitte, both places. So yeah, I had a real variety of experience there. Going in as a sales manager, managing a mid-market team, my first experience with an enterprise team. Both teams performed really, really well. I had fantastic success with them. And then getting the opportunity to work with GSIs, which was something that I've had the opportunity to do before.
Wow, fantastic! And so obviously, SMB was your comfort zone. You'd been in that throughout your career, really, and then obviously stepping up to enterprise. I mean, other than arguably larger customer base, bigger deal values, any other sort of significant differences between the two sort of functions?
Yeah, a lot of difference. Obviously, the deals, of course, are slower because the companies are more sophisticated. So, whereas you might have in an SMB 1, 2, max 3 buying personas that you need to sell to, in large enterprise, it's significantly more. So the sell and the pitch is the same, but the level of sophistication is significantly higher. And then, almost every enterprise company has some kind of procurement department. So the contracting process is longer, more difficult. That company is more sophisticated. They're a little bit more savvy. So yeah, the art of selling, I think the pitch is pretty consistent, and the value selling, but a lot more sophistication in the enterprise space, and then the deals take longer, and consequently you're working with a more sophisticated salesperson because they need to appear to a higher level of stakeholder than they would with an SMB. So yeah, fantastic experience, but I adapted really, really well to it. My enterprise team in workplace, I'm really proud of the performance we had. We delivered record numbers for workplace, and I had a really, really fantastic team and a really diverse team as well. I had a real mix of genders in that team and some very, very successful women sellers who did some incredible things there.
I can imagine that the jump between SMB and enterprise being, like I say, a challenging one, a highly rewarding one, but depending on your personality, it can be quite frustrating. So, it's not for everybody, is it really? I mean, people have very good careers in SMB market and choose to stay there just because, not necessarily transactional, but you can turn deals around a lot quicker, can't you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm so on the fence about it. Like, so people have asked me in the past, like, what do you prefer, SMB or enterprise? And I won't give an answer because the thing that I love about SMB and the things that you mentioned, like, it's fast, like deal to deal to deal, get to the goal so frequently. One of my A's Simpplr closed an SMB deal yesterday, and it's another one. Like, you get that buzz, deal is a deal. But there's just, I kind of like an enterprise sales to that romanticism of heavyweight boxing. It's the glitz, the glamour of it. You're dealing with people, and sometimes you sell to people who are, in the public eye and well known. Some of the customers that I had at workplace at the time in the enterprise space were, in the news around the pandemic, and that's really cool to have that experience. And then closing some of the larger deals, and I think when they take longer, that sense of reward is almost greater because you've worked on it for a much longer period of time, and the financial rewards are more significant as well. So very different, but I wouldn't say I prefer one over the other. Like, I see the value in both, and that's one of the things that I love about my current role is I manage both of the enterprise and SMB.
Fantastic. And we'll go on to that shortly. So obviously the previous role, so you've been doing direct selling throughout your career. You then looking after GSIs. I think you mentioned Deloitte, PwC, Accenture,
Yeah.
not small names,
No.
each with their own level of complexities. I mean, how did you find that sort of making that transition?
I was a terrible alliance manager. To be
I've never
honest,
known anyone to be so honest.
it wasn't for me. I did well there. I had a fantastic boss, Irasani, who still runs their global B2B channel partnerships there. She's phenomenal to work with. And I had some amazing people around me. But I think the skill set of an alliance manager I really learned there is different to a salesperson. Like, you've got to be really invested in the relationship and understand the organization's priorities and be able to balance those as well as your own organizations. And I think that's where I really struggled, because as a salesperson, I was always so heavily focused on my company's priorities and my company's results. I was really excited to take on the job at the time because I'd never worked with the GSIs, their enterprise businesses, all of them incredibly sophisticated. Some of them are sophisticated sales materials and processes that I've ever seen. They all have, absolute top quality people. And I learned a lot from a number of the people that I worked with there. And I worked, on some of those alliances at a really exciting time. That wasn't too long after Accenture just bought 60,000 Meta Quest devices. So I got to be heavily involved with, some of the announcements around that, including, having Julie Sweet on stage at Meta Connect with Zuckerberg a couple of years ago. I got exposed to some real high profile stuff. But in the end, I was now in another role that was taking me away from that end customer sale. And yeah, I wasn't terrible at the job, but I certainly didn't enjoy it as much as I enjoyed direct selling. And I think the thing that kept me motivated for so long, I kept doing it for so long, was just I was surrounded by some wonderful people and getting people that I got to learn an enormous amount from.
And I think that's it. I mean, as much as you clearly have a preference, it's great experience. It's a big learning, and quite frankly, equips you to take the role on that you have now. I think ultimately, because otherwise, you have it under your remit. It's quite hard to probably lead a function, and you see it a lot of the time where people are leading a function they've never actually done the job themselves. It's not that easy, So obviously, let's talk about where you are today, because until Katie Fox at SOB introduced us, frankly, I hadn't heard of Simpplr. Every other organisation on the resume, so to speak, I'm aware of, but this was new to me. So what made you take on this opportunity, and what was it about you that made you a good fit for the role?
So it was advice from a mentor ultimately. So when I joined Meta, the gentleman that was running the workplace business there is a chap called Julien Codornier. And he was with Microsoft for a number of years. He was for a number of years. He's now a partner at a small VC firm in London called Felix Capital. And he's an incredible leader. And I've had two, bits of advice that really stand out in my career. The first was the one from my left that I mentioned, and always have a plan. And the second one was on Julian's last day at Meta before he left, which was about a year before I did. I was fortunate enough to have a one-to-one with him in the office before he went. And I just asked him for advice and said, what do you recommend I do next? And he paid me one of the nicest compliments of my career. They're in his accent. He kind of said, like, you can tell to SMB, you can tell to mid-market, you can tell to enterprise, you can tell to IT, you can tell to comms, you can tell to people. You've got to, told me that I had a really, really strong base skill set. But he said the next thing you need to do is go to a smaller company, because you've only ever worked for big firms. Like, go to a smaller company, like that's the next learning for you. And it really stuck with me. I remembered I don't think he probably won't remember the conversation, but I really remembered the advice he gave me. And at the end of my time at Meta, my boss here, I think, was noticing that I was starting to not enjoying the work as much, and she'd stayed in touch with Julian, and she just kind of mentioned in in conversation that might work just re-engaging with Ben and going over and drink with him if you've got some time. And he reached out to me and said, "Hey Ben, do you fancy a introduction to Simpplr? It's a cool company." Well, it's the same as you, like never heard of it, like no idea who they are. But yeah, let's go. If Julian says like meet the CEO of this company, and you go and meet the CEO of the company. So I had a meeting with Dira, Simpplr CEO, and I wasn't blown away by the initial conversation with Dira. So he's a smart guy, like clearly built a great company, but I remember thinking like, I don't know if this is for me. And then I saw the product, and I saw the AI in action, and I saw something that I hadn't seen before, which was a company that really knew how to apply AI for the benefit of its users and its customers. And the opportunity was to be the first international sales leader to run field sales and operations for EMEA and to help launch the company from an international perspective. They founded 10 years ago, based in Silicon Valley, some sick logos. But I just started to notice some interest from abroad, and the UK is obviously always a good place to start. And I was thinking of the outlook, and I've never done that before. And just reflecting on the journey that we've talked about, I'm always attracted to experiences. I'm always attracted to things that I haven't done before for the completeness of experience. Like I've worked with GSIs, I've managed SMB teams, I've managed enterprise teams, I've managed, senior salespeople, junior salespeople, sold all kinds of different products. But I'd never worked for a smaller company before. And after seeing the product and having a couple of conversations, I was convinced that this is a great place for me to learn. And again, it's been a great gig so far. I joined in the beginning of September last year. And it's been hard, like building pipeline at the start of the year. But I've got a fantastic team around me. Some really, really wonderful talent at Simpplr. And we've started to be really successful over the last couple of quarters. Like our performance has just done this. And we've achieved some major milestones. We just got approved on the UK government G Cloud framework. And that's obviously opened up some amazing opportunities for us. And I've learned more in the last year than I think I've learned in the last kind of 18 months at Meta, and that's been what's important for me.
Yeah, that's huge. And I think it highlights actually the importance of having a mentor. It's remarkable how many people, sales leaders, technical leaders, go through their career without one. And having that person, that you can speak to that has got nothing to benefit, but just give you pure, honest advice about where you should take your career, that actually knows you for who you are, is so vital, because it's really difficult to look outside inwards. It's really, really hard. So giving you that perspective, and obviously it stuck with you, and obviously, you're now where you are. So obviously 18 months takes a little while to get your feet under the desk. You just mentioned that the last few quarters, it's really sort of, on the upward trajectory. What are the sort of key things you as a leader, because you can't come in and change things on day one. That never normally goes down sort of well. So what has been the approach for you to get this trajectory now?
So I'm smiling because that's what I tried to do, and it didn't go well.
Did it not?
When I joined, like one of the things that was very obvious to me very quickly was that there was going to be a difference between my sales team and the sales team in the US. So the sales team in the US had largely been served by inbound leads, which is a blessing. I've been in sales roles in the past where I've not had the benefit of inbound marketing, and they were served really, really well there. And a couple of superstar sellers that would kind of generate their own pipeline and generate leads. And one of the things that I learned at Rackspace that was so important, this goes back to OwnLab's advice around having a plan, was the importance of proactivity. And actually, again, a leader at Ingram Micro, director there called Julian Thompson, he's the one that said to me, like, activity drives results. If you don't have pipeline, activity. And when I went to Rackspace, that served me really, really well by asking the team to be proactive, like to the team from a low performance to hitting target. And that's why we knew we needed to do it simpler, like we needed to build pipeline. And the only way to do that at the time of the resources we had over here was we needed to pick up the phone, and the A's needed to be proactive. And I asked them to do that very quickly, and it went down like the proverbial Hindenburg. And it took a while. It took months to build that culture. And for a while, we got a lot of inbound RFPs, we did the RFPs, and any sales leader will tell you they don't like RFPs. But I hired a couple of people who had that mentality. One in particular, I've got an absolute superstar seller on my team called Vivi. She's got that proactivity. We hired an outstanding BDI, Elliot. He joined us in the summer, and he's really, really helped. And once you get that into the culture of the team, picking up the phone, being proactive, the energy, that starts to become infectious. And that's kind of what changed. So I tried to implement it very quickly, and I did a call out day, I think in like the second or third month, with poor results. But just by persevering, and I kind of explained to the team, I saw 4 pillars of pipeline. There was inbound, there was partners, there was referrals, and then there was outbound. And outbound was in their control. And that's why it was so important. It's taken time, but no, it's paid off.
Fantastic. And in terms of creating that awareness, 'cause as I mentioned, I've not heard of Simpplr beforehand. Obviously, lots of people haven't. But how in terms of actually getting your target customer base and getting in their eye line, what have you done to really sort of showcase and broadcast the news about Simpplr?
Yeah, so that's our biggest challenge. Brand awareness is our biggest challenge. Like, a lot of people haven't heard of Simpplr. I mean, when I joined the business and, put on the LinkedIn thing that I'm joining Simpplr, like a few of my friends messaged me saying, "How is Simpplr? Where are you going? What are you doing?" The brand awareness in the US is significantly stronger. That's a challenge for us over here, and something we've been working on. And we've been addressing it in a number of different ways. So firstly, like obviously social media, LinkedIn, get the word out, start to build partnerships, connections with people. The vast majority of our inbound leads come from the analyst reports. So someone Googles, like, what's the best intranet? The Gartner report will come out, and use Simpplr as a leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant. If you look at the Forrester report, you'll see that Simpplr is a leader in the Forrester Wave report. So the analysts have always been really kind to Simpplr, which has helped. But obviously then we've done events, we've gone and gotten ourselves involved in the internal comms communities, showing up with our banner and our people network, coming in front of people. And I think that's helped. I still think we've got a lot to do. I think getting on G Cloud framework is going to help as well. We've started to receive inbound links through that, which has, really, really helped. But, this going back a year ago, these are the things that I mapped out that we needed to do. We need to do events. We need to have a stronger presence on social. We need to build personas around ourselves. One of the things that I did that was both nice for the team, but also helped with the outbound culture is I paid to have everyone in my team get a professional headshot done, just so that we had that consistent branding of social media and everyone had a nice headshot. But at the time, everyone was like, "Oh, this is a, hopefully they feel like, cool, this is a nice gift for me." So what it's done is created a kind of visual brand for us across LinkedIn. So if you look at any of the Simpplr employees in the UK, the majority of us, except for the couple that we've hired post photographs, have got that consistent headshot and have got that consistent branding. So yeah, events, doing more blogs, doing more marketing, and then just showing up and being present. And when we sign a notable logo, we've signed several very notable logos this year, doing case studies with them and making sure that we delight them and that they're willing to speak about us in the future.
It is. You are right. It's little things and creating consistency. And brand awareness. I mean, you probably seen it on ours, right? I didn't get a professional photographer in. I got a shoddy iPhone, quite frankly, and just put an orange background. But the orange background basically just pops up on everyone's timeline, so they just see us all the time. We're everywhere. Good and bad, probably, but it tends to work at creating that consistency in terms of your messaging and your branding, for sure, and going to all those different events it is vital. Look, it's going in the right direction. It's humans in AI. That's the reason why we're obviously speaking, because you're working for an organization that is underpinned by AI. AI is used everywhere, quite frankly, and it's possibly one of the I suppose your opening lines in terms of when you're actually making that pitch to a prospective customer. I mean, looking at the next 12 months, you see where you've come since you started last September. How do you see your growth, and what do you see your plan for growth?
I think just, every year the expectation is going to be to double the business. We've had a fantastic year this year, particularly in the second half, and we look like we're going to finish the year really, really strong just as we head into Christmas. But then next year is double the business and go again. If I look at if we simply matched next year what we did in H2 this year, and then have a stronger H1, we'll grow the business. So opportunity for growth for us next year is already pretty straightforward. So it's just to continue to acquire, exciting logos, tell customer stories, and just continue to grow. I think the product, well, in the space that we're in, there's a lot of players in the telecommunications space. Like, if you look at the number of competitors we have, it's more than I've ever had in my career, even when I was in security. And it's a buyer's market at the moment. Because of that, you've got to continue innovating. And that's one of the things that's an advantage about being at a smaller privately owned company is we invest our profits back into the products. And we've already launched a significant number of features and products, for instance. So I think as the roadmap and the product continues to evolve, that means things are exciting and we've got more things to sell to our existing customers and more value we can add to them. And it positions us stronger against our competitors. And that's the thing, when you're a leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant, it's my first time working in a company that's held that space, your competitors get better. So you've always got to look over your shoulder and think about how you're innovating. And it's the same with the sales team. So I'm really excited for next year. I've got a great team around me now. And I think we'll double the business at least again next year in the UK.
It's a good. I think it's a good thing though that your competitors get better because it makes you get better. Slightly deviating, but I watched a film last night called Burnt with Bradley Cooper, and it was about two chefs, and it was the sort of the battling to get the Michelin stars, and the two enemy chefs. And I think the enemy chef said, "I need you. You're the best. Without you, you don't pull us forward." And I think that's a great thing, and I think that's an important part of industry as well. So, you need to be in that competitive landscape to constantly strive to do more for your customers, and obviously that's going to be what helps you sort of grow. So, one last question before we sort of finish up. You're nearly 40, as you said. So there's other people probably listening to this that are sales managers, looking to progress into sort of sales director, sales sort of VP type level roles, and sort of wondering what they should be doing. For those people that are looking to make the sort of next move and become a highly credible sort of sales leader, what sort of advice would you give them?
I think there's a number of things you can do. If you're looking to get better or looking to diversify your experience, I would just think about I think having, as you mentioned, I've had a lot of great leaders that I've been able to learn from. So I think networking is important. If you don't have those leaders around you, go and seek them out, go and get involved in networking events. I got involved with the Forbes Councils about 3 years ago, and that's been highly important for me just from a networking standpoint and meeting like-minded tech professionals. But just having, people like Olaf and Julian, and I had a great manager at England called Ape, now at Microsoft. I had a great manager at Meta, Era and Nazir as well. Having people that, care about you, but also can give you brutal, advice and feedback. Julian's feedback wasn't brutal, but, he looked at my CV and he knew me and he said, go to a small company. You know about building a startup. If you want to develop, that's what you need to go and do. So if you have the ability to self-reflect and look at your own CV and think where are my gaps? Then go and do that. If you haven't worked at a big tech company, go and work at working at Meta was fantastic. Having the ability experience of working at one of the big 4 or 5 tech companies is just amazing. Really grateful for that experience. So whether it's going and working for a big company or going and working for a small company or selling a different product, I think a few years ago I had this realization. Actually, no, it was 10 years ago. It was when I was turning 30. I kind of realized I'm probably going to be, I might get a director title, I might get a VP title. The titles are great when you get them, and then once you've got them, they for me mean almost nothing. But you'll fundamentally, you might just be managing a sales team for the rest of your career. And I remember at the time I thought that a cold sweat came in, and I thought that's really scary, that's terrifying. I'm basically just going to do the same job for the rest of my career. And actually now that gives me comfort. I will manage sales teams for the rest of my life. It might be more sophisticated sales teams, it might be bigger sales teams, it might be smaller sales teams. I might go to SMB, it might be more enterprise focused. I might go back to cybersecurity. I might sell a different type of software. In 10 years' time, I might be selling a different type of software that doesn't exist now. But experiencing different things, I think, is what's helped me. It's helped me from a network perspective. It's helped me from a skill set perspective. It's helped me in terms of, those times when you kind of doubt yourself and think, actually, can I do this? Can I do something different? And, achieve success, and you realize you do have the ability to be successful anywhere. So, get a mentor, get someone that can give you a good 360 view of where you are, and follow their advice and go and do something different, and learn from those different experiences.
Well, that's pretty much a great place to end it on. So, to recap, mentors are really important, invaluable. I've got one. It really does make a difference. And then for you, it's always build a plan. Activity does breed results. And going in and trying to change things from the beginning 9 times out of 10 won't probably work, but make it a smooth journey to get the buy-in. But that's probably the best way to leave it. But look, this has been brilliant. Well, I'm keen to continue watching what's going on with you and Simpplr now that I've got to know you guys. And may well have to have you on again. But this has been brilliant. And otherwise, have a good day and enjoy Christmas.
Thank you for having me. Have a great Christmas.
Cheers now. All the best. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. I really do hope you found something valuable to take away from our conversation. Ben gave us a great insight into the importance of early career experiences and emphasised the value of coaching, empathy, and his unique approach to sales. This episode was brought to you by Asobi. I'm the founder and managing director, and it's our mission to connect the best talent with the most exciting scale-ups in artificial intelligence, machine learning, and the data center space. If you're looking for more practical advice or inspiration from those who've been there and done it, stick with us. We're releasing new episodes every week, so don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and follow us over on LinkedIn. You won't want to miss a thing.